This is a quiet exploration of a familiar planet. Imagine slightly differently. Imagine standing still on a wide stretch of open land where the ground feels steady beneath your feet and the air is calm. Nothing nearby moves quickly. The earth turns beneath you at a constant pace, a motion so familiar it is almost impossible to feel. This slow rotation defines the passage of time, separating day from night, light from darkness, rest from activity. Now, gently lift your eyes toward the sky. Above you, something unfamiliar stretches across the heavens. A vast, pale arc, smooth and unbroken, extending from one horizon to the other. It does not flicker. It does not rush. It remains perfectly still, as if it has always been there. This arc is not a cloud and not a trick of light. It is a planetary ring system orbiting the Earth. High above the atmosphere, billions of individual particles follow quiet paths around the planet, each one guided by gravity and motion. From the surface, the rings appear as a single structure, calm, continuous, unchanging. They trace a perfect curve across the sky, revealing the shape of the Earth itself. The rings are aligned precisely with the planet's equatorial plane, forming a stable, balanced system that moves only in relation to the slow rotation below. Though they appear solid from afar, the rings are not a single object. They are composed of countless separate pieces: ice, rock, and fine dust. Some particles are smaller than grains of sand. Others are as large as stones, or larger. Each particle travels in its own orbit, moving at tremendous speed, yet maintaining perfect spacing and order. There is no collision that can be felt from below, no vibration, no sound. Space offers no medium for noise. All motion above is silent. From where you stand, the familiar sky feels different. The presence of the rings changes the sense of scale. The sky no longer feels distant or empty. It feels structured, defined, anchored. The arc becomes a reference point, a new horizon above the old one. As the Earth continues to turn, the stars beyond the rings drift slowly, almost imperceptibly. The rings remain fixed in position, steady and unhurried. Time seems to slow beneath them. During the day, sunlight reaches the rings before it reaches the ground. Some of that light passes through open gaps. Some of it strikes the icy particles, scattering outward. The result is subtle. The day remains bright, but the light feels softened. Shadows lose their sharp edges. Contrast fades slightly. The world appears calmer, as if viewed through a gentle filter. This effect is constant, not dramatic, and never sudden. As hours pass, the arc overhead does not change its shape. It does not follow the sun. It does not respond to weather. It simply remains, quiet and precise, marking the passage of time through stillness rather than motion. The rings become part of the landscape, as familiar as the ground beneath your feet. People would eventually stop looking up in surprise and begin to accept the arc as permanent, a new normal. At dusk, as the sun approaches the horizon, the rings catch the last light of the day. Their surface glows faintly, reflecting soft tones back toward the earth. The sky shifts through shades of blue and silver, while the arc remains suspended above, unchanging. Night approaches, but the rings do not disappear. They remain visible, outlined softly against the darkening sky. Standing beneath this silent structure, it becomes easier to feel small, not in a threatening way, but in a reassuring one. The rings are vast, yet stable. They move endlessly, yet predictably. They require no attention and demand no response. They simply exist, quietly, overhead. The Earth continues its slow rotation. The rings hold their place. And beneath this immense, silent arc, the world feels calmer, more ordered, and gently connected to the rhythms of space. High above the atmosphere, beyond clouds, beyond weather, the ring system continues its motion. From the surface, it appears still, but within the ring plane itself, everything is moving. Imagine drifting slowly among countless small fragments suspended in the quiet of space. Each particle follows its own path, guided by gravity and momentum. There is no central structure holding them together, no frame, no surface, only motion and balance. The particles that make up the rings vary widely in size. Some are no larger than grains of fine sand. Others resemble pebbles, and some are larger still. Most are composed of water ice, mixed with traces of rock and dust. Their surfaces are irregular, shaped slowly over immense spans of time by gentle collisions and gradual erosion. These collisions are not violent. Relative to one another, the particles move at similar speeds, so when they meet, they do so softly, often bouncing, sometimes sticking together, sometimes breaking apart. The process is slow, measured in thousands or millions of years. Within the ring plane, there is no up or down, only forward motion. Each particle orbits the Earth independently, completing a full revolution in a matter of hours. Yet despite this speed, the system feels calm. Order emerges naturally, as particles settle into stable paths where forces remain balanced. Those that drift too close to one another are nudged apart. Those that wander too far are drawn gently back. Nothing happens quickly. Nothing is wasted. Sunlight enters the ring plane at shallow angles. When it strikes ice, it scatters, reflecting outward in soft, diffused patterns. This is why the rings appear bright from afar, even though they are made of countless small pieces. Each fragment contributes a tiny reflection, and together they create a continuous glow. From within the ring plane, the light feels even, distributed, never harsh. There are no shadows in the traditional sense. Instead, brightness fades gradually from particle to particle, creating a gentle shimmer that never flickers. The space between particles is vast compared to their size. Despite the density of the rings when viewed from a distance, most of the volume is empty space. If you were able to pass through the rings, you would encounter long stretches of nothing, interrupted occasionally by drifting ice. There is no wall, no barrier, only a quiet field of motion spread thinly across an enormous distance. This emptiness contributes to the system's stability. It allows particles to adjust, to settle, to correct their paths without disruption. The ring plane is remarkably thin. Though it spans tens of thousands of kilometers across, its thickness measures only tens of meters in many places. This flatness is not accidental. Over time, gravitational interactions cause particles to lose vertical motion, flattening the system into a precise plane. Any particle that strays too far above or below is slowly guided back, its energy redistributed through countless tiny interactions. The result is a structure defined by geometry, not rigidity. From this perspective, the Earth itself dominates the view. Below, the planet curves gently, its atmosphere glowing faintly where sunlight meets air. The rings circle endlessly, never touching, never falling. They remain suspended in perfect balance, neither rising nor collapsing. This balance has no awareness, no intention. It exists purely as a result of physical law. Gravity pulls inward, motion carries outward. Between them, the rings endure. Over time, the ring system slowly evolves. Particles collide, fragment, merge. Some lose energy and drift inward, eventually entering the upper atmosphere, burning away silently. Others migrate outward, finding new, stable orbits. But these changes unfold at a pace far slower than human experience. From one generation to the next, the rings appear unchanged, a constant structure, defined by movement, yet perceived as stillness. Within the ring plane, there is no sound, no wind, no vibration, only motion, unfelt, unheard. This silence reinforces the sense of calm. Nothing here reacts to urgency. Nothing responds to attention. The system continues, indifferent to observation, content in its quiet rhythm. Eventually, as awareness drifts back toward the surface below, the vast field of particles fades from focus. The details blur, motion slows, and the ring plane once again becomes a single arc in the sky. From below, the complexity disappears, leaving only a smooth curve overhead. The intricate dance continues unseen, while the world beneath rests quietly under the steady presence of the rings. Light travels a long distance before it reaches the Earth. It leaves the surface of the sun, moves through open space, and arrives at the planet after several minutes of uninterrupted motion. Normally, this light reaches the ground directly, defining the familiar rhythm of day and night. But with a ring system in orbit, this journey changes. Before sunlight reaches the surface, it passes through the rings. High above the atmosphere, billions of small particles intercept the light. Some rays pass cleanly through the gaps. Others strike ice and dust, scattering outward, softening their intensity. The result is not darkness, it is filtering. From the surface, the change is subtle. The sun still rises, the sky remains bright, but the light feels gentler, less sharp, less demanding. Shadows soften, edges blur. The world appears calmer beneath the rings. Because the rings orbit along Earth's equatorial plane, their shadow does not remain fixed in one place. As the Earth moves through its orbit around the Sun, and as its axis remains gently tilted, the angle of incoming sunlight changes. With this change, the shadow cast by the rings begins to move. Slowly, predictably, a broad, faint band of shade drifts across the surface of the planet. Not like a cloud, and not like a storm. It moves with celestial timing. Weeks pass, then months. The shadow glides northward, then southward, following the rhythm of the seasons. In regions beneath this moving shade, days feel different. The sun still warms the ground, but its intensity is reduced. Temperatures become more stable. Extreme heat is less common. Daily temperature swings soften. The light remains diffused, as if filtered through a thin veil. Life responds gradually. Plants adjust their growth cycles, becoming more efficient under softer illumination. Leaves broaden. Pigments deepen. Energy is captured more evenly, without the urgency of intense midday sun. Animals adapt as well. Activity shifts toward the gentler hours of the day. Movements become less hurried. Migration patterns respond not only to temperature, but to changes in light itself. The shadow becomes part of the planet's long rhythm, as familiar as the changing length of day. Nothing happens suddenly. Everything unfolds slowly. Unlike weather, the ring shadow never surprises. It does not arrive unexpectedly. It does not depart without warning. Its presence is always anticipated. Its movement always gradual. Generations live beneath the same filtered sky, growing accustomed to the softened light. The shadow becomes a season, defined not by cold or heat, but by brightness and calm. In some places, the shadow lingers longer. In others, it passes briefly, returning months later. This slow movement reinforces stability. The planet settles into a predictable cycle, guided by the geometry of orbit rather than the chaos of atmosphere. Above it all, the rings continue their motion. Below, the surface responds quietly. As the seasons progress, The shadow continues its journey. It stretches across oceans, crosses continents, and slowly fades as the angle of sunlight changes. Light returns gradually, never abruptly. There is no sharp transition, only a gentle shift from filtered brightness back to open daylight. The rings do not control the planet. They influence it through patience, through consistency, through quiet presence. Light still arrives, life still grows, but everything beneath the rings unfolds with less urgency and more balance. The earth continues its slow rotation. The shadow continues its calm passage, and beneath the rings, time itself feels softened by the steady rhythm of light and shade. Near the equator, the experience of the rings changes. From this position on the planet, you are standing directly beneath the plane of the rings. The immense width that was visible from other latitudes disappears. What remains is a single line. The rings collapse into a razor-thin band, stretching perfectly from east to west, cutting the sky in two. It appears impossibly narrow, as if drawn with precision across the heavens. This is not an illusion. The ring system is extraordinarily thin, measuring only tens of meters in thickness, despite spanning tens of thousands of kilometers in width. From the equator, you are looking directly along its edge. During the day, this line can be difficult to see. It blends softly into the brightness of the sky, revealing itself only as a faint interruption, a subtle division in the blue. But as evening approaches and the sun lowers toward the horizon, the line begins to change. The particles within the ring plane catch the last light of day. Ice reflects softly. The thin band brightens, becoming a luminous filament, stretching endlessly overhead. For a brief period at dawn and dusk, the razor line glows. It is not intense, not blinding. It is precise. A perfect boundary, defined by geometry rather than mass. As the Earth continues its slow rotation, this line remains fixed in the sky, while the light around it shifts. The sun sets, the sky darkens, the line slowly fades, without urgency, without drama. At night, the razor line becomes more subtle. Stars appear on either side, their light uninterrupted except where the line passes. The Milky Way may cross it, only to vanish momentarily before reappearing on the other side. From this perspective, the flatness of the ring system becomes undeniable. It occupies a single plane in space, maintained by countless tiny corrections made silently over immense spans of time. Breathe. There are moments, as the Earth turns, when the rings pass directly through the zenith, the point directly overhead. At this precise alignment, the razor line nearly disappears. For a few minutes, the sky seems open again, as if the rings have vanished entirely. But they have not gone. They are simply aligned so perfectly that their thinness makes them nearly invisible. Then, slowly, the line returns. This brief disappearance highlights the delicate balance of the system, a structure of immense scale, reduced to a near invisible edge by perspective alone. It is a reminder that vast systems can appear simple, and that complexity often hides within stillness. The razor line continues its silent presence, marking the equator, serving as a celestial reference point. Navigation changes, orientation changes. The sky gains a permanent divider, quietly tracing the planet's geometry. Clouds pass beneath the line, unaware of the structure above them. Weather forms and dissolves, independent of the rings. The razor line remains unaffected, untouched by wind or rain. It exists beyond atmosphere, beyond turbulence, beyond noise. This separation reinforces calm. The rings do not interfere, they observe. Over time, those living near the equator grow accustomed to the line. It becomes part of the sky's identity, a feature as reliable as sunrise. Children grow up beneath it, never knowing a horizon without its presence. The razor line remains steady, precise, and silent, while the earth continues its slow turning beneath. From this place, standing directly under the plane of the rings, the universe feels ordered, defined, balanced. And beneath the thin, luminous line overhead, it becomes easier to rest, knowing that even the largest structures can exist in perfect quiet. As you move farther from the equator, toward higher latitudes, the appearance of the rings changes once again. The thin line that traced the sky overhead begins to widen. What was once an edge slowly reveals its true breadth. From the polar regions, the rings rise into the sky as a vast arch. They begin low on the horizon, then sweep upward, curving gently overhead, before descending again toward the opposite side of the world. The structure fills a large portion of the sky, far larger than the moon, far larger than any constellation. It becomes impossible to ignore, yet it does not feel overwhelming. It feels stable. From this perspective, the true width of the ring system is visible. Bands of varying brightness stretch across the sky, some dense and luminous, others faint and nearly transparent. Gaps appear between them, dark divisions where fewer particles orbit. These variations are not random. They are the result of gravitational patterns, established slowly and maintained patiently over immense spans of time. Each band follows the same fundamental path, but responds slightly differently to the forces that shape it. At the poles, the rings never fully leave the sky. As the Earth rotates, their position remains constant, anchored in place by geometry rather than time. Day passes into night. Night returns to day. The arch remains. It becomes a permanent feature of the heavens, as reliable as the horizon itself. During daylight, the rings appear pale and diffuse, their brightness softened by the angle of the sun. They framed the sky rather than dominate it, offering a sense of structure without intrusion. Clouds drift beneath them, casting slow shadows on the ground below. Weather continues its familiar patterns, unaffected by the silent structure above. At night, the effect deepens. The rings catch sunlight long after the sun has set, remaining illuminated high above the atmosphere. From the polar regions, this reflected light spreads broadly, washing the landscape in a faint, silvery glow. The arch becomes more pronounced. Its bands stand out clearly against the dark sky, revealing layers and depth that were hidden during the day. Stars appear through thinner sections, while denser bands briefly obscure them, creating a slow, shifting pattern as the Earth turns. The sense of scale from this vantage point is profound. The sky feels supported, as if held up by the vast curve above. Constellations feel smaller. Distances feel greater. The Earth itself feels like part of a larger system, connected directly to the mechanics of orbit and motion. The rings offer no sound, no movement that can be felt, only presence. Over time, those living beneath the polar arch grow accustomed to its form. It becomes a navigational reference, a fixed landmark in the sky. Travelers orient themselves by its position. Observers measure time by its unchanging curve. Children learn the sky with the arch already included, never knowing a world without it. Despite its immense scale, the ring system does not impose itself. It does not demand attention. It does not interfere. It simply exists, following the same paths, repeating the same motion, day after day, year after year. The arch remains steady, even as everything beneath it changes. From the polar regions, the rings feel like a constant companion, a reminder of order, a reminder of balance, a reminder that vast structures can remain gentle, and that permanence does not require force. As the Earth continues its slow rotation, the polar arch holds its place, quietly spanning the sky, while the world below rests beneath its calm, enduring curve. As the sun sinks below the horizon, night begins its quiet return to the surface of the Earth. Shadows lengthen, colors soften, movement slows. Normally, darkness would follow, but beneath a ringed sky, night is different. High above the atmosphere, the rings remain illuminated. Though the sun has set below the horizon, its light still reaches the particles in orbit, catching ice and dust and reflecting softly downward. This reflected light is known as ring shine. It is not bright. It does not glare. It arrives gently, spreading evenly across the surface. The night is never fully dark. From the ground, the effect is subtle but constant. Landscapes remain visible, outlined softly in silver tones. Trees cast faint shadows, Hills appear as smooth shapes against the horizon. The light does not flicker. It does not pulse. It remains steady, as calm as the slow orbit that produces it. Unlike moonlight, ring shine does not wax or wane over short cycles. It changes gradually, depending on the angle between the sun, the rings, and the rotating Earth. Some nights feel slightly brighter, others slightly dimmer. But these changes unfold slowly, over weeks and months, never suddenly. The quality of ring shine is unique. It lacks the sharp contrast of direct sunlight. It lacks the focus of a single light source. Instead, it arrives from a broad arc overhead, diffuse, even, and quiet. Shadows soften further, edges blur gently. The world feels wrapped in light rather than illuminated by it. For those awake beneath the rings, the night encourages stillness. Movement slows naturally. Voices soften. There is no need for urgency. The presence of light removes harsh darkness while preserving calm. It becomes easier to remain outside, to walk, to pause, to observe. The sky feels closer, yet less imposing. Above, the rings continue their silent orbit. Particles move endlessly, unaware of the light they reflect or the comfort they provide below. From within the ring plane, the sun still shines, even as the surface enters night. This separation of day and night creates a layered rhythm, one that unfolds slowly, without interruption. Nocturnal life adapts. Animals rely less on deep darkness and more on subtle contrast. Eyes adjust, patterns shift. The brighter nights allow for longer periods of gentle activity without the need for sudden movement. Predation becomes quieter. Navigation becomes smoother. Everything unfolds with patience. Human rhythms would change as well. Artificial lights feel less necessary. Settlements glow softly, blending with the ambient illumination from above. The boundary between day and night softens, becoming a gradual transition rather than a sharp divide. Sleep arrives gently, supported by the steady glow of ring shine. As hours pass, the Earth continues its slow rotation. The angle between the rings and the sun shifts imperceptibly. Ring shine dims or brightens by degrees too small to notice in a single night. The sky remains calm. The light remains constant. Nothing demands attention. Eventually, clouds may drift across the sky, partially obscuring the arc above. But even then, the light persists, filtered further, softened again. The rings do not disappear. They remain present, even when unseen. As awareness drifts and the night deepens, the silvery glow continues its quiet work. illuminating without waking, reassuring without distracting. The rings shine softly above, while the world below settles into rest. And beneath this gentle reflected light, sleep arrives naturally, guided by the steady rhythm of orbit and the calm persistence of the night sky. Over time, life beneath the rings begins to adapt. Not quickly, not dramatically. Change arrives slowly, guided by the steady rhythms of light and shadow and the calm predictability of the sky above. Plants are among the first to respond. Under the filtered light of the rings, photosynthesis continues, but with a different balance. Leaves broaden slightly, spreading outward to gather gentler light. Colors deepen, greens become richer. Growth is steady, not rushed by intense midday sun, and not stressed by sudden extremes. Seasons remain, but their edges soften. Forests adjust their pace. Canopies grow denser, layering themselves to make use of diffused illumination. Understory plants thrive, receiving light that once would have been blocked. The forest floor becomes more stable, less prone to rapid drying, more supportive of slow, continuous growth. Life spreads evenly, rather than competing intensely for brief moments of brightness. In open landscapes, grasses grow taller and more resilient. They sway gently beneath the rings, responding to wind, not urgency. Their cycles align with the slow movement of the ring's shadow, growing steadily during periods of filtered light and resting when illumination softens further. The land appears calmer, less sharply divided between growth and dormancy. Animals respond in their own quiet ways. Activity patterns shift. The softened daylight encourages longer periods of gentle movement rather than bursts of intense activity. Creatures forage calmly, without the pressure of harsh heat or deep darkness. Migration responds not only to temperature, but to changes in brightness itself, tracking the slow passage of the ring shadow across latitudes. Nocturnal life changes as well. With nights illuminated by ring shine, darkness is no longer absolute. Eyes adapt. Movements become more fluid, less sudden. Predators rely less on surprise and more on patience. Prey responds with awareness rather than panic. The balance shifts toward steadiness. Human life adapts gradually, almost without noticing. Architecture changes subtly. Buildings open toward the sky, taking advantage of softened daylight and gentle night illumination. Artificial lighting becomes less dominant, used sparingly and with intention. Settlements glow softly, blending with the ambient light from above, rather than competing against it. Daily routines adjust. Work unfolds at a calmer pace. Rest arrives more naturally. The boundary between day and night becomes less rigid, allowing transitions to feel smoother, less abrupt. Sleep deepens. supported by the steady presence of light at night and the absence of harsh contrast. Over generations, these changes become normal. Children grow up beneath the rings, learning the rhythms of the sky as something ordinary, something reliable. Stories include the arc overhead, not as a marvel, but as a constant. Life is shaped not by surprise, but by expectation. The rings do not guide life directly. They do not instruct or command. They influence quietly, through light, through shadow, through patience. The result is a world that moves more slowly, responds more gently, and settles into balance without force. Beneath the rings, life does not hurry. It grows, it adapts, it rests. And under the steady arc of the sky, the planet breathes, in time with the slow rhythm of orbit and the calm persistence of the rings above. Above the atmosphere, the rings continue their motion. They have done so for a long time, and they will continue for far longer than any moment measured below. From the surface, they appear permanent, unchanging. But like all things shaped by time, they too are slowly evolving. Each particle within the rings follows a predictable path, guided by gravity and by motion. Over immense spans of time, tiny interactions accumulate. Particles collide gently, exchange energy, and adjust their orbits. Some fragment into smaller pieces, others merge. Nothing dramatic occurs. Change arrives quietly, spread thinly across millions of years. Gradually, some particles lose a small amount of energy. Their orbits tighten, bringing them closer to the planet. Eventually, they drift into the upper atmosphere, where they heat and fade, leaving no trace. Others migrate outward, finding new stable paths and continuing their silent journey. The ring system reshapes itself slowly, without urgency, without resistance. From one human lifetime to the next, the rings appear unchanged. Generations pass beneath the same arc, seeing the same curve in the sky, measuring time against its steady presence. Civilizations rise and fade. Languages evolve. Landscapes shift. The rings remain. This persistence offers reassurance. The forces that govern the rings are simple and reliable. Gravity pulls inward. Motion carries outward. Between these two, balance is maintained. No effort is required. No awareness is needed. The system endures because the universe permits it, and because the conditions remain stable. Eventually, far beyond the present moment, the rings will thin. Their brightness will fade. Their structure will soften. Not through collapse, but through quiet redistribution. The material will return slowly to the planet, becoming part of the atmosphere and the surface once more. This process will unfold so slowly that it will feel eternal to those living beneath it. Until then, the rings remain a constant companion, a reminder that motion does not require noise, and that change does not require urgency. They exist within time, but are not ruled by it. They follow the same paths again and again, finding stability through repetition. As the Earth continues its slow rotation, day becomes night, and night becomes day. The rings hold their place. Light shifts. Shadows move. Life adapts. The larger structure remains unchanged, providing continuity in a moving world. Standing beneath this immense arc, it becomes easier to let go of short moments. Concerns feel smaller, thoughts slow. The awareness of deep time, of processes unfolding beyond urgency, encourages rest. There is nothing to anticipate, nothing to resolve. Only the steady presence of motion without disturbance. The rings continue, their silent orbit tracing the shape of the planet. The Earth turns gently beneath them, and beneath this quiet continuity, the world settles into rest, guided by gravity, by motion, and by the calm persistence of time itself.